what kind of drugs they do. You know, because you know they're on some anti-anxiety shit, but if they take 2 or 3 instead of 1, I think that's how you get some of your witnesses. I think that's how you get your Cato Kalins. Remember that shit? Yeah. Barco says if someone breaks into your house, you get to kill them without any legal repercussions. Yep, I think that's a good, you know, and I can say that from a point of someone whose house was someone attempted to break into it less than 2 months ago. And I thought about it that day after I figured out what had happened and called the police. I thought I could have, and on a different day might have, shot and killed this man. He's already broken the one window. He's prying on the second window with a shovel. And he hears me stirring. And he didn't hear me when he first knocked. Apparently I didn't hear him. I was napping on the couch. I hadn't slept in 3 days, so I was going to. I went to bed at 9 o'clock in the morning. At 11:30, this is when this happened. So he breaks the outside. Apparently he comes up and knocks. I don't answer. He assumes nobody's home. Breaks the outside window. He's prying on the secondary window with a shovel. And I hear this grind, grind, grind. I think a cat's caught in the closet. So I go look in the bedroom, and it stopped. And I thought, this is weird. And then I look out toward the front door, still thinking it must have been a cat doing something. And I see a guy doing a little bob and weave move, trying to see between the blinds, because he's heard me by then, moving around. And he's thinking, wait, I just knocked and nobody was there. How is somebody there now? Then I start walking toward the door. Well, he could see through the little holes in the blinds that the strings run through. So he could see something moving there that was human size. So he took off. By the time I got to the front door, or the side door that we use, he was just disappearing into the woods. I could see, he had a vertical leap of crazy for a white boy. But would I have shot and killed him? I think so. I know that I would have had to shoot and kill him if my girlfriend and or my stepdaughter-to-be had been here. I would have had to. And then you ask yourself this question: how guilty do I feel? And being the kind of guy I am, I would have carried some guilt with me, because sometimes people that do that kind of thing are just desperate and they don't think they have any other choice, or they need mental help or whatever. This guy had just gotten out of jail, and I don't know, he'd spent 20 of his last 25 years in jail, and he was doing what came naturally, to return to a life of crime. So he just went back in on 13 counts, and I just had the county victim line call me to update me on the court proceedings. He's got a court date later this month, so that way we could be there at the court thing. But he'll probably get 2 or 3 years for this shit, and maybe 4 or 5 years suspended, and he'll be back out doing it again. So I've got to think seriously about it. And I think that what I'm going to do is invest in a shotgun, and I'm just not going to think about it anymore. I have to defend the people inside the borders of this house. And but you better make sure. You better make sure it's not one of your kids sneaking back in that snuck out. You better make sure it's not one of your pets making the noise, and you don't know. And I would say make sure you see a face before you pull that trigger. Minnesota man Byron Smith shot 2 teenage kids, white girl and white guy. Both broke into his house. But he was sort of expecting them to break in. He got prison for life. That's right. I remember that. Yeah, he was expecting it because he almost set the trap, I think, if I remember right. That's sort of entrapment. Like, if I remember correctly, didn't that guy park his car somewhere away where it looked like nobody was home or something? That you're getting into a dangerous area there when you're fishing for them. So we don't have a gun. We have Dave and a lot of friends with guns. What lawyer would put her on the stand? Yeah, if they open, drag them in. I've heard that too, but I wouldn't do that. I don't think you want to mess with you don't want to tamper with evidence or modify a crime scene. Just tell the truth. Ideally, what you want to be able to do is take a polygraph exam by a very respected source when something like that happens. So just start out with the truth. Don't even fuck around. Yeah, Barco says he parked his car down the street, turned out all the lights. And the reason he knew this was going to happen is because apparently they had been breaking into other people's houses, and or they had broken into like his garage and stolen things, but apparently hadn't tried the house since he'd been home or something like that. But the guy had a pretty good idea that they would be coming, so he was fishing for them. Now, do you take a guy like that and put him in jail compared to a guy who doesn't know that someone's coming but decides he's going to set it up to look like nobody's home? You know, that almost sounds like the mentality of a Jorge Zimmerman. It almost sounds like the same mentality. They're looking for a fight, looking for an excuse to kill someone legally. He recorded audio. I've got to see that story. That looks like a good story. He's got a, for those of you that are listening but not in the chat room, Barco has a YouTube video here, and I'm just going to share the link on the Facebook page. What's it going to take for you to kill somebody who's attempting to break into your house? Well, what's the tipping point for you? And what if you don't? What do you think if you're in your house, and say you got a kid and a spouse there, and the last thing you get to see as your hands are handcuffed because you did what the gunman said is your spouse or your child raped and killed? What thoughts will be the last few that go through your head before it kills you? In my head, I would hate myself for not even doing enough to defend the people I lived with. I would hate myself. I would beg for death. I couldn't live with that. So I say avoid that. You know, you got to picture it. You got to have a decent imagination. Go ahead and picture what it's going to be like, and then figure out a way to avoid that situation ever happening. And even though I've always felt that way, I still hesitated with this guy. Probably because it was broad daylight, and I had no concept that someone was trying to break into my house. It did not click. If we didn't have 4 cats, it would have clicked right away. But because we have 4 cats that have done such insane shit as get caught by their head in the curtain rod dangling, yes, I saved her life. Princess did it. You don't know what's going to happen when you got 4 cats. So noises don't affect you so much. Had they not been there, I would have known. And there's a decent chance I would have put a bullet in his head. But in the middle of the day, you know, there were so many things telling me, this is not a break-in. This is not a break-in. But I'll tell you this, my friends, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And that's the first time in my life I had ever seen anything like that. And broad daylight. You have to imagine situations like this so that the shock factor doesn't get you. Because the shock factor, if you've never even imagined a scenario happening, it can stun you. It can freeze you. You won't know what to do at that critical moment. And that's not something you want to happen to you when it's a life or death situation. The shock factor. I remember 9/11 looking at the TV, and I didn't believe what I was seeing for hours. But when I saw the second plane hit, literally one of the thoughts that went through my head is, where is David Copperfield? Who set this up? Which network? Was this an NBC setup? Who set this up? You know, and then I thought, you know, War of the Worlds kind of thing, and I thought, that'd be pretty fucking cruel to get people thinking this is real when it's not. And even with that thought in the back of my head, I still did not believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe it. I don't know. I don't know how you guys processed it, but I could not believe what I was seeing. So, in a way, if you don't imagine scenarios like that, you will not be prepared for them. You can't. David Copperfield, what is he on about now? I thought he did 9/11, man. I swear to God. That's what I was thinking. I'm sure, but we use premium litter. Yeah. No, it doesn't. It doesn't smell in our house, because when I go out for the day, I should be able to. If they piss anywhere other than the litter box, you smell it. Like our big male, if you leave clothes on the floor near the washer or dryer, he'll piss on them. So yeah, you can smell it. No, the house smells good, man. Guard cats, that's right. That's what I have. I wish I could put machine guns on their head with cameras. Oh, Guy Shea's back from the outhouse. I did not expect you to reappear, my friend. Yeah, I want to see that video. I thought I didn't share the link yet for you guys, the one that Barco shared. If you're in the chat room, you'll see it there. For those that are not, or you're listening on iHeart later, you can check out the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/TruthOnTapShow. On that page, you'll see an announcement for this show called Make Your PC Fly plus Freestyle. We're in the Freestyle segment now. And we've got video up that Barco shared about this guy who basically used entrapment to kill people. And that's a great debate question. This is one of those cases that'll be taught in law classes for decades to come. How much is too much when you're fishing for a criminal? You know, it's funny that a guy like this would go to prison for killing these people, yet the pedophile hunter guy can use entrapment, and those guys go to jail all day long. So when is entrapment okay? As long as you're not going to kill the suspect? And speaking of that, who watches Criminal Minds? Or any shows like that? Because I want to know what the fucking unsub is. Unknown subject. Okay. Because I thought they were saying unsup, like under suspicion. Unknown subject. That's kind of gay. Why don't they just call him the guy? Why say unsub? Why not say suspect or the guy? That's ridiculous. I think it helped that dude recorded himself shooting the kids. Intent is a bitch to prove in court. That's for sure. I've been seeing people lately, as I look at some of these law shows, I've been seeing an alarmingly large number of convictions coming off of nothing but circumstantial evidence. And that's kind of scary to me. Which tells me that reasonable doubt is a changing definition. What do you guys think reasonable doubt is? Was there reasonable doubt in the O.J. Simpson case? I don't think there was. I think once you get into the DNA evidence, regardless of the sloppy work the police did, it's impossible. Unless someone presenting the DNA evidence was lying, or somebody manipulated test results, it's impossible that he was not guilty. That's what I think. So that goes way beyond reasonable doubt. If you're a husband and your wife dies, you're fucked. That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, remember this country that we like to tote our American flags around and say how American we are? And innocent until proven guilty does not exist here. You guys see it. If there's someone picked up for suspicion of murder, you'll have people back at the jailhouse before the guy even gets back in the car with signs up. Fuck you, you ought to die, you child molester, you murderer, you rapist. Wait a minute. We don't even have a fucking hearing for his court date to be set yet, much less a verdict. And if you had your chance, you'd shoot him right now? You sure he's guilty? Because do you know how many people have been exonerated by things like the Innocence Project? Turned out they were not guilty? If that happens to even one person, that should put a major doubt in your head. When you hear so-and-so suspect has been arrested, don't fucking assume that they're guilty. Wait for the case to happen. Then if they're guilty, then you can be all pissy and go shoot them if you want. Jesus. It just bothers me, man. People just jump right on the band. I heard somebody on Facebook recently say there was this guy in Virginia. You guys probably been following the case. I haven't followed it closely, but there's some missing girls. First, it started off with one missing girl, and then they think he may be linked to another. And the next thing they were saying is, I'll bet all 3 of these other disappearances were him. You what? What, you watched a few episodes of CSI? You got it all figured out now? Jesus. They don't even know if he's guilty of the first one, and they're putting the label on him that he's done these last 5. It's just fucked up. You know what? I think we can each spread the word to our friends through our own Facebook post and forum post and public discourse that